Welcome to the MMA Roadshow, episode number 507. My name is John Morgan, and Cold Coffee is with me, sort of. He's hanging out with me. We're not actually together because I am in Atlantic City, New Jersey for Fight Week CFFC 138. Cold Coffee is back home in Las Vegas, and Cold Coffee, I think we're a day late. Look, we used to do Thursdays. We normally have been doing Wednesdays. I think it's Thursday today. I am lost, bro. It has been a whirlwind, and you know that I love this sport, and I love traveling, and I love all the opportunities that I get. But I'll tell you what, man, I'm looking forward to a great fight card on Friday night, and I'm looking forward to being home for a little bit because I kind of forgot what my house looks like at this point, man. It's been a little bit.
Well, I'm telling you, and that's one of those things. It's great to travel. It's fun to travel, but man, it's like be careful what you wish for, because the travel grind will wear you down.
Yep.
And we joke that, you were traveling so much for the UFC that you're like, I need some time away. I need to not travel, but you're traveling more now than you were before.
It's hilarious.
And it's the little trips, the jump. That's what's tough,
This one's it's just been kind of a whirlwind. So it's funny. Did CFFC match day this past week in St. Louis. Got to see the Iowa Hawkeyes. So if you're into Division I college wrestling, man, super cool. Check it out.
That's a big one.
It was a big one, man. They are such a storied program, and it was an honor, man. The talent on that was absolutely incredible to watch those guys compete, man. They were unbelievable. So flew home on Saturday. To be honest with you, and I talked about a little bit on the and a half episode, there was a brief moment where I thought about just staying home and watching the fights from home. Because I just, to be honest with you, man, we've talked about it a little bit before, but when I get done calling fights, I can't go to sleep, man. It's just like you're hopped up, man. There's adrenaline. It's fun. You know what I mean? It's not like I can just go lay down. So had like a 6 a.m. flight, didn't sleep at all, slept a little bit on the plane, came home, did UFC 310. It was fantastic. During all that, you actually forwarded me an email that ended up working out. Vice, and I'm not allowed to talk much about it, but Vice reached out and said, like, hey, we're doing a shoot we're doing an MMA show, and we'd like for you to be a part of it. Are you available to be in Brooklyn on Tuesday? And I was like, I actually am. I need to be in Atlantic City on Wednesday, so it'd actually work out perfect. So I'd just go there. So anyway, came home, did UFC on Saturday, hung out with the family a little bit on Sunday, and then on Monday flew out to New York, shot with them on Tuesday. Actually saw John Anik out there as well. Again, I'm not supposed to say anything about it. Signed a bunch of NDAs. But I can say I saw John Anik right there, right? I think I could say that. Yeah. Saw him out there. Shot with him on Tuesday. Flew to Philadelphia. Got some business done with Rob Haydack, the CEO. He lives out there just outside of Philadelphia, inside New Jersey. Then yesterday we came up here to Atlantic City. Weigh-ins this morning. Obviously fights tomorrow. But, yeah, man, since this – it's just been – crazy, like different plays, and again, wouldn't have it any other way. Love it. I actually love what I'm doing for a living, and I love getting to do it. But you just start getting lost of what's going on, man. I'm ready for a little slowdown in the schedule and to get caught back up for a little bit.
Yeah, man, you're gonna lose track of your days.
I'm telling you.
Well, I'll be looking forward to that kickback from Vice for putting you guys in touch with each other. So I'll wait that check in the mail.
I'll let them know that you're seeking your fee. I'll let them know that you want this.
Speaking of, did you see there was a tweet from Jedi Goodman that said, per DL, which I don't know what DL is, Vice Media has launched a sports division lining up more than 50 hours of programming and also shifting its Vice TV cable network to a sports-first approach.
Yep.
And 2 of those shows will be Dark Side of the Cage and the 6th season of Dark Side of the Ring. And our man on the inside, well, I don't know, but Nolan King, I don't want to steal his thunder, said that he heard that Steven Morocco is behind or part of the Dark Side of the Cage.
Oh,
not sure what that is all about or whatever. So,
all right, an old friend
Dark Side of the
there.
Ring. When I had heard that term, so I immediately, when he said Dark Side of the Cage, I didn't put 2 and 2 in my head. So I was like, wait, is this a wrestling thing or an MMA thing? Dark Side of the Ring is the wrestling thing that I remember seeing some of that stuff. And Dark Side of the Cage is supposed to be the MMA portion or the side project or whatever.
I'll be interested in that. So Dark Side of the Ring, and man, I'm not even a big wrestling fan by any stretch. But I've watched, I think, every single episode of Dark Side of the Ring because I think they do such a good job. It's just great storytelling. It's just great storytelling, you know? So I'm interested to hear Dark Side of the Cage. And I don't think Steven Morocco would necessarily mind look, like, him – he approaches things. He's the right guy for Dark Side of anything. You know what I mean? Like,
I said the same thing.
You know what I mean? Like,
I said the same thing.
I don't mean that in a negative way, but like if they put me and you in charge of, hey, bro, we've got this great project. We're gonna pay you well. It's Dark Side of the Cage. I don't think me and you could do it. Like, we're like, well, I mean, you know, he wasn't that dark. It was actually pretty good. You know what I mean?
Like we would find the positive sides where Steven's like, I will find the most gruesome, deep, dark secret, and I will highlight the shit out of it for you people.
You know, he was going down a path of addiction, but his dealer was kind of nice, and like it actually, I don't know.
I mean, the dealer, I mean, while he was ruining some lives, he did volunteer at his school as a PTO member, you know, so we can overlook the fact that he shattered lives and shattered careers.
It's so true, man. So that's interesting. No, that's good to hear. Yeah, so this, I mean, again, we're not supposed to say much about what we were shooting.
And again, it's rumor mill. I was going to say, especially the Morocco thing, he said he heard. So who knows if it is, in fact.
Oh, well, I hope it is. But,
well, I mean, so he said he heard. So, I mean, like, but if it's making the ways around the network, if you will, I'm sure it's probably true.
Good for him, man.
And it's right up his. We both know Morocco. It's right up his alley.
It really is.
So it makes complete sense.
And I hope that doesn't sound like mean or negative. Like, obviously, we worked with Steven for a long time. It's just, he doesn't mind going down those, dark paths of the dark side of things. So good for him, man. I hope he did do that. I can tell you, I mean, again, signed NDAs and stuff, but what I can tell you, I think safely without upsetting anybody is, man, their team was professional, man. Everybody that I worked with, from the moment of getting everything booked to the whole shoot and everything, like this team buttoned up, man, professional. So it was a pleasure to shoot for them. So
that's awesome. Yeah, Vice is legit.
Yeah,
those guys are legit, man. They know what they're doing, man. They're talented folks. So yeah, I'm looking forward to see what comes out of that, for sure.
Definitely look forward to that. So, all right, hey, I did want to give a quick shout too before we start talking about all the MMA. Got to Atlantic City, and last night I'm throwing this out there. If anybody's from this area or they come to this area, and you can get a reservation, because it's not easy to get a reservation at this place called Cafe 2825. Holy shit. It's like this family-owned Italian restaurant, tiny, small. From what I understand, like, you basically got to know somebody to actually even get a reservation. Like, the way it was explained to me is that they only take reservations 2 weeks out. So whatever day you want to go on, you have to call 2 weeks out. And when you call, you don't even talk to somebody. You just leave a message on an answer machine about what time you want to come in and how many you got, and they'll call you back if they decide that you're good to go.
Oh, wow.
But dude,
that's dope.
Oh man, we had a little team dinner there last night. It's honestly world class, some of the best food I've ever had here in Atlantic City. So I just wanted to give them a shout out, because that place was fantastic. And I've been here a ton, and I'd never heard of it. I guess it's kind of a local legend or whatever, but family owned, tiny, and just everything from scratch. It was fantastic. So I just want to give them a little shout out.
That's awesome. Well, speaking of food and shout outs, hopefully it's not bleeding into the recording, but I can hear my rice cooker over on the counter bubbling away. I'm like, I can hope it's not making
I can't hear it, so hopefully it's not in there.
That's good. And hopefully you can't hear my cat in the other room yelling for me to come play with him. My cat is the most annoying. I love him to death, but there's a certain point in the day when I've been sitting at this desk, he starts to lose his mind, and he starts whining so loud. So it's not that I'm neglecting the cat. If you can hear it, it's just he's over me working. He wants me to go play with him, and what that means is a whine for me to go in the other room. And then I'm like, what do you want? He crawls up to the stairs, and then he wants you to sit on the stairs and pet him.
And
that's the playtime.
That's the whole
just
thing.
Sit there. As soon as you go into the stairwell and sit there, he's purring like everything in the world is absolutely fine and perfect. But if I sit in here any longer and do work, he starts losing his damn mind. And so, yeah, hopefully that's not bleeding into the recording.
I'm not hearing that. Hold on, by the way, do you have like a big meal planned, or is just like do you just always have some rice going? Is that just kind of?
I try to have some rice in the house. Yeah, I mean, like, who doesn't keep some rice around? Like, the rice is a good side dish for whatever. So every once in a while, if I know that I've been out, I'll just make a bunch of rice in the rice cooker, and then I just eat it with everything. In the morning sometimes I'll make eggs and put it over the rice, and rice I'll have with I got some chicken breast, so chicken and rice. I mean, like all of us, professional athletes, athlete type like myself, chicken and rice. But rice is like one of those things and you can make it and it lasts for days. So, you just kind of make it a little side dish. But yeah, I got it going. I just happened to start it earlier.
I've never had a rice cooker. What is that? You just
bro, you got a rice cooker. So you can either do the rice like on your stovetop. You can add the water and you can boil it. You can do it right there. Rice cooker, you put a certain amount of rice in there and then enough water. Usually, so like a knuckle over it, or you can follow the lines on the inside. It'll have a number. And you can usually go, so say if you put like 5 in there, you can either go 5, fill it up to the 5. But right now I'm doing brown rice, so I usually go to the 6. So I go a little bit more than just the whatever, because it takes a little bit more water. But put it in there, hit fucking start, and it can tell when the water on the inside has evaporated and gone, and it'll beep, and your fucking rice is done. You just open it up, stir it around, and sometimes you can stir it while it's cooking, just so it doesn't stick on the bottom. But you just, boom, rice is just done. It's like when you go to some of the sushi places, you see them taking the rice out of the bigger thing. That's just a big old rice cooker.
So is that a game changer for the rice?
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, you can't have any Asian in your blood if you ain't got a rice cooker in the house. I mean, like, it's one of those things. I think my mom, over the years, has probably bought me multiple rice cookers or, like, hot pots or any of that sort of thing, like an Instapot. Instapot's like the new version of, like, what they'll sometimes give you instead of a rice cooker, because it could either do it. But yeah, rice cookers.
Maybe I have to give it a roll. Do you ever?
It's game changer.
Do you ever throw
game changer?
Do you ever throw like some chicken stock or something in there instead of water?
You can.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can, or you can even, and a lot of them too. When you have they have a little, usually a lot of the plastic insert you can set on the top. You could put like broccoli and other stuff, so it'll steam the vegetables while you're cooking your rice and stuff. Some people will go and they'll either take tomatoes and other sort of stuff and push it inside, and actually it like cooks a whole little meal right inside. So yeah, you could do some search online, but like people making meals like in rice cookers, and it's legit. It's just super easy because it's like set it and forget it type shit. But
might have to roll that. Well, there's your
yeah. Well, I know what I need to get you now for Christmas.
There's your cooking corner. Yeah, I'll take a rice cooker. This actually sounds pretty good. I kind of want to feel like I want to mess with it now. You would probably be ashamed of me as much as I listen. I do cook in my house. I am the cook in my house, and I think my wife would readily admit that. She does. Not that she doesn't help out, but I grew up in the restaurant business. She didn't. But as far as rice goes, I gotta be honest with you, we're pretty much like a minute instant rice, like microwave rice type thing. So
which is fine. Like that rice is actually not so bad. I mean, like it's pretty fine, but it's usually like just like a whatever sort of white. I forget what sort of long grain or whatever, but you could just the rice cooker just makes it easy to do the different other brands. But I think like you said, you can get creative and create like little meals in there, which is pretty spectacular. But and it just gives you a reason to make cups and cups of rice that you can have throughout the week. Whereas if you don't want to keep, because the instant rice, the value of like a thing of instant rice, while it's cheap for that initial serving, it's usually for like just a couple servings. Whereas if you buy like a big bag of rice, which I happen to get like sent through that Amazon subscribe and save, so like every month it sends me a bag of rice.
Wow, and that's the latest on the Rice Roadshow. We appreciate you joining in for your rice update.
Thank you very much.
Next week we'll be talking about Jasmine versus Basmati, and
see, look, your rice. Your rice.
Oh my
but yeah,
goodness.
no, it's legit. I guarantee I'm not the only. We'll have multiple listeners I know that have a rice cooker. There's got to be somebody that has a rice cooker in here.
I dig it. All right, let's get into some mixed martial arts, shall we? We got UFC Tampa to talk about. We'll break all that down a little bit. Obviously, neither you or I are there covering it, but I know I had a chance to check out the media day, and I'm sure you have as well, probably cutting some remote video and that sort of thing. But I did want to get your take on this Global Fight League launch that was announced. The press releases are out. I know that there was an interview on the Ariel Helwani show breaking down this whole Global Fight League launch, and I want to get your temperature on it because I got to be honest, it kind of leads into a bigger discussion as well, right? I saw, PFL making big news by signing Sage Northcutt, which is cool, right? A name that we haven't heard in a while, and certainly got put on the shelf for a little bit. But as they're announcing a new signing, we're hearing a lot of Bellator fighters and PFL fighters are saying, hey, can you please let me go? Can you get me out of here? Because I'm not fighting. You guys are canceling events. I don't know what's going on. Nobody's talking to me. Nobody's communicating. So there seems to be some concern among the ranks right now with PFL and Bellator. I think you and I have talked about a little bit that I get the sense that they're just kind of reorganizing and they're trying to get themselves ready for next year. And I think they're just willing to take a little bit of a PR hit along the way if it helps them get things. And I kind of applaud them to a degree of making sure that they're making financially responsible decisions, but it's not looking good in the meantime. But anyway, we can talk about that in a minute. Because among that landscape, you have this launch of the Global Fight League. And I see some excitement. I see some fan excitement. I see some discussion about it. And the more players we have in the marketplace, the better it is for everybody, right? But I don't know, man. I don't want to be that negative guy because it's good. Again, the more people around. But I'm looking at this one, and I just have some concerns about it, right? And it's not even the concept of the team thing, right? Like I see some people kind of taking shots at him, like, hey, man, the team thing's been done. You saw the IFL. It didn't work. I tend to agree. I don't think the teams necessarily – the team concept does work unless you could find a compelling way to do it. Like just creating random ass teams doesn't do anything, right? Like I do think teams have a place. Like with Match Day, with Division I college wrestling that we've been doing, you know, you have a built-in fan base. Like for you're going to cheer for the Ohio State University no matter who's playing for the team, right? And then you can figure out who's on the team and you can learn about them. So if you can figure out a compelling way to make a team, I still think it can work, and I applaud anybody for doing anything different. So it's not so much that. It's just there's two things that bother me. Number one, the whole revenue share model, I appreciate it, but I don't know how much revenue is actually going to be there right away, right? So you're talking about rev share and all that, and it's like, well, unless they have a big contract, like the numbers that they had that they were using as you know, examples of how you could do it, scaring me a little bit. The other thing that's weird to me is I guess there's this roster of 300 people that have been signed, 300 athletes, but only 120 will be drafted. And so does that mean that the other 180 don't get anything? And does that mean that their name is kind of being used right now as like, hey, look who we got? Well, we don't really have them because they might not get drafted and they might not compete at all. And so that feels like a little bit of bait and switch to me, or a little bit of like, hey, we're going to use your name to help sell our product, whether we actually use you or not. So I don't know, man. I don't, and you know me. I mean, here we are sitting. I think overall, you and I have like pretty positive outlooks on life and the way we approach things. Some, you know, not when Angry Kenny shows up. Sometimes that's a little bit, but overall, we're pretty positive. But I don't know, man. I don't know. Again, I don't want to, you know, just poop on them right out of the gate. But I don't know. It's just a weird thing to me, man. So I wonder what your initial thoughts were, and what discussion you've been seeing and feeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think you hit it on the head. I mean, I think we've always been in agreement that the more players out there, the more avenues for some of these fighters that maybe aren't going to get called back to the UFC. Yep. The PFL used to be, and Bellator were these other options. And while it does seem that there is some question as for what's going on right there, I think maybe part of that, why there's such a big spotlight on that, is because you have some of the biggest players that are signed with them that are sort of like raising this, you know, what's going on with my fights? What's this? I think if we had the same sort of thing over in the UFC, and we've had people in the UFC say, like, I don't understand why I'm not getting booked.
Right.
But I think if you had the biggest stars and the biggest names of the UFC saying that, maybe there would be more traction. But I think also people have always kind of wondered about the PFL, and when the fact that it bought Bellator, that puts Bellator's financial status in question right from the get-go, because people are wondering if it's ever just going to sort of go away, because you're only seeing these weird overseas events and these weird, you know, sort of phrasings, and, you know, so I think people are already sort of questioning like that. But the fact that, you know, you have the big stars, I think that's why people are wondering about that. But still, that being said, if it's going and everything is good for PFL, good for Bellator. But the fact that there's any other possible thing that's trying to become something is a positive.
Yes.
But I think you broke down, you know, some of the major questions, you know, like what's this revenue share, you know, how much money is actually going to be going their way if nobody's putting any money into it?
Right.
And what are these contracts? If you're under contract, what does that mean? Are they able to still go out and fight another thing? Because if you're not on the active roster and you don't get drafted, does that mean you can't pick up a fight elsewhere? I would imagine they would probably allow them, since there would be some sort of, I would think as a fighter, I would want it written in that, well, if you don't draft me, that I'm still free to go wherever
Absolutely.
and do what else. But most of the names you look on these roster, they're not fighting anywhere. Nobody's making offers for them. So maybe they don't have that really worry about fighting elsewhere because, people like Arlovsky, who we both love
him.
And I know you're a big fan. Nobody's clamoring to sign Andre. Andre's at the end of his career. Same with Tyron Woodley and some of these other names. But then when you look at the names on this list, it's pretty damn good. There's some actually still legit. How do you see Henan Brown and not get nostalgic?
Yeah, man.
But we haven't seen Henan Brown fight in how long?
Years.
It feels like it's been 10 years or something since, we've been watching that guy when he was crushing it in the UFC. I'm glad to see something. I think anytime something new kind of comes out there, it could be a little scary and a little iffy because people are going to wonder, where's the money? Is it even stable? But when you see these lists of these names of people that have signed on to do it, that's very promising.
It is.
Like, you would think that these fighters, they do their research. I don't think they're just going to jump and just sign anything. Like, if someone just comes out of the woodwork and says, hey, man, I want to sign you to this thing, and we're going to potential of whatever, we're going to give you 50-50. So if we make a bunch of money, you're going to get a lot of that money. Some of the names on this list, these are not dumb people. These are smart fighters. So I would think that they've done the research. So if they're willing to jump into it, I'm gonna have the benefit. I'm gonna give them the benefit of the doubt and hope that it works out. And again, it's another player in the field, so it'll be interesting. When they come for the teams, you're right. Teams have been done. When they say the teams and names and cities to be decided or whatever, is it going to be like Team Miami or Team like whatever? I'm not sure what that even means. And you know what? When you talk about like, I can watch the Buckeyes. The Buckeyes are centrally located, and I have ties to that place. So, say if you're Team Miami and you take a fighter, say out of like Brazil, you're not asking that fighter to live in Miami, right?
Correct.
Because then that asks a whole nother thing. So it's like, I think that's going to be the hard part, is trying to find people to really get behind a team that's not really from that area.
Yeah.
It'd be different if they said, okay, Team Vegas, but nobody lives in Vegas. Is the Vegas market going to support it just because you put Vegas in the name?
I don't think so.
There needs to be some more ties. So I think it'd be interesting to see where they decide to put these teams, what the sort of team makeups is, what that even entails. But I'll give it the benefit of the doubt. It's something new. It's something. It'd be interesting. I think a lot of us realize that some of these names on this list are not fighting the best fights that they've ever done, but they're still people that you see these names and you get nostalgic. You get the feels. Wanderlei Silva. Go down the line of some of these names on this thing. Teixeira, Diego Teixeira, Tyron Woodley. Fabricio Verdum. It's a who's who of people that at some point meant a lot to us.
So that's one. So it's funny because Wanderlei Silva is one that stood out to me, right? Like Wanderlei, to me, I know that the way his career ended wasn't the greatest. I know he kind of tarnished his reputation, but to me, will always be a legend. Obviously during his Pride era, I should say, not area, was incredible. And obviously he was a long time, Vegas resident and had the gym out there and was a good dude. Was always good to us, me and the Junkie Radio guys, and all that was always great to us. So, I have a lot of love for Wanderlei Silva. Wanderlei is also 48 years old. Like, is he actually going to fight? I know he's teased over the years, maybe some boxing, maybe some whatever, but his last fight was in 2018. That's 6+ years ago, and again, he's nearing 50. So,
and I was gonna say he was old as shit.
Yeah, and it wasn't a young man then, right? So it's like, so that's one of the ones that really stood out to me on there. Like, okay, Wanderlei Silva, is he really going to fight? And if not, why is his name on there? Like, are you just, again, is he being compensated in any way for that, or are you just essentially using his name to build your league? You know what I mean?
Well, remember back in the day when Vitor Belfort, and some of the other guys were always clamoring for like a Masters league, like an Elders. Like, I don't want to see Wanderlei Silva go in there and fight a 30-year-old.
Right.
But if you have somebody that's along the same lines, I'm and they're in physical. They could pass the commission, health checks, and everything's good. And you find a equally old as fuck fighter, that's willing and can pass the test. Like, that would be interesting to see. So maybe something like that. I don't want to see an old man fight a young guy. Right. Nobody needs to see that. Nobody wants to see that. But when it does make me think of like when Vitor and some of those guys were like, dude, can we just make like a Masters League where the older guys are fighting the older guys? Obviously, UFC and all them were like, we're never going to make something like that. But maybe with this team sort of structure, if they're still sort of figuring out what it would entail, maybe that's the kind of thing that would work out. Because you're right. I mean, like, when you look at Vanderlei's name on that thing, it's like, that's scary. Like, if you're not going to put him in a fighting thing, maybe at least clarify what some of these signings are. If they're only going to be ambassadors of the sport, but if they're actually going to be fighting, they better not be fighting young guys. Like,
yeah, exactly.
We just saw that with Jake Paul and Mike Tyson, who was one of the greatest of the sport, and he looked ridiculous. Like, nobody wants to see an old man fight a young dude and get beat up on it. So I would hope that maybe if there's some leeway to make like a Masters League or something of like the old guys, then I'm not opposed to it. If they can pass commission, their health checks are good, and they're both willing combatants, I have no problems with Vanderlei Silva fighting again. I just want it to be a fair fight, and I don't want to see him get beat up fighting a guy 20 years younger than him. Like, that's ridiculous. But who knows? But it is still pretty fucking cool to see his name listed on a roster. Like, I mean, like, it's a dude. I mean, he's huge. I mean, like, who didn't love at some point Vanderlei Silva, or just like, I mean, like, he's such an icon of the sport that, I don't want to see him get done dirty, but, if he's still able to compete in a fair fight and the medicals are good, and I'm not worried about him doing any further damage that somebody shouldn't do. But I'm sure at this point you don't want somebody that old to fight. But, dude, whatever. We tell people they already can't do enough stuff in this life. If you're good enough to pass a test and you have somebody else willing to go on the opposite side and say, hey, bro, let's still test to see if we still got it going on, go for it. Who am I to say no?
I agree. You can't protect people from themselves, right? You know what I mean? You gotta you gotta let them do what they want to do. So two things. Number one, like you said, I don't know what concept they'll use for the teams. I know in the IFL days, I used to think the idea of gyms against each other would be cool, like versus, and they tried a little bit of that at the end where it was like they had like a mentor, and it was, but like, Extreme Couture versus Syndicate, or Extreme Couture versus American Top Team, whatever. I think that would be very compelling, to be honest with you. So that's one thing. We'll see how it pans out. Second thing, literally while we're sitting here talking about this, I got a text from somebody that I don't think I'm probably supposed to reveal who it is, but it's literally a graphic for Dark Side of the Cage. It's like, hey, by the way,
that's awesome.
It debuts on January 8th, by the way. I don't think we touched on that earlier, but it's actually like a little preview thing for it. It's got a debut date of January 8th, and it's a little graphic for it. It says, Dark Side of the Cage cuts through the glamour and glory of the MMA spectacle to reveal the never-before-told stories behind its most iconic competitors, and delves into the controversial and infamous events along the path to the sport's dominance.
Dun, dun, dun.
I'm looking forward to it.
That sounds pretty fucking cool to me.
This person says, I think I'm allowed. I've been communicating on the side. This person says, I think I'm allowed to talk about it if you're interested. I'll make sure that he gets cleared. It is a he. I guess I just I shut it down to half the population on Earth. I ruled out half, but he said I think I could talk about it. So we'll maybe follow up on that, because I am interested. Like I said, I was actually telling him I've seen every Dark Side of the Ring episode. I'm not even a wrestling fan, so good stuff there. All right, well, listen, and I don't know. I kind of touched on the PFL Bellator. It's all kind of tied in together. I want to see all these things work out because we need opportunities. But like, for instance, looking at the schedule, obviously I'm busy on CFFC 138. I'm tied into that. I know I got UFC Tampa, and I was kind of thinking to myself, all right, before we get together, man, is there any other MMA we need to talk about this weekend? And I'm like, nope. I'm pretty sure just UFC Tampa is all we got to talk about this week. That's all that's on the horizon. And I'm like, oh, wait a minute. When is the PFL Europe Finals? Isn't that coming up soon? Oh, that's right. It's Saturday. I didn't know. You know what I mean? Like, and again, I'm not trying to poop on them or whatever. I know it's not easy sometimes to get media buy-in and fan buy-in and all that. But I'll be honest with you, I had kind of totally forgotten that it was even taking place this weekend. And if I'm being 100% honest with you, even as I sit here now, I'm not 100% sure to tell you where to watch it on Saturday should you choose to. I think it's on ESPN Plus, but I'm not 100% sure.
They might have forgot too, so that's why I haven't heard anything, because they ain't been saying nothing about it.
I'll tell you what, and I'll say this right now: I am not a fan of the PFL's website, man. I'm just the way that, like, I just feel like it's not easy in terms of, like, you got to, like, seek out where the event is, and then it's just not laid out well, and it doesn't have, like, the starting times on it. Like the UFC's website, at least when I log in, I see the starting time, I see the channel, I see, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. They need some help. They've done a great job of hiring people, and they've done a great job of expanding over the globe. And I'll continue to say, as I have, I think their global expansion is the smartest thing that they're doing, as difficult as it is. But the messaging gets a little bit lost, man.
Yeah, I mean, you gotta help yourself. Keep reminding us. Like stuff comes and it pops up. But yeah, I mean, I don't remember really getting the normal email. In fact, I was looking at my email list today, and it'd been a couple weeks. Maybe I didn't get on. Maybe I'm not on the list. It's been a couple weeks since I've received anything from the PFL. And so if something's going on, you figure they would have been reaching out. But maybe I missed that email somewhere. But yeah, I mean, you shouldn't have to go to Tapology to kind of figure out what's going on this week because you haven't heard anything. Because this slipped under my radar as well. So
there you go.
It is what it is.
There you go.
It is what it is.
All right. One thing we do know is happening this Saturday is UFC in Tampa. Colby Covington and Joaquin Buckley in the main event. The co-main event, Cub Swanson, Billy Quarantillo, really loved that one. Big flyweight fight, Manel Kopp and Bruno Silva as well. And then, honestly, some fun names up and down it, but those are kind of the featured matchups that are really going to have some impacts. As I said, you and I are not out there, but we did both check out the Media Day coverage, so thanks to everybody that did make the trip out there to Tampa and was covering things from the media room. Here we are in that situation again where anytime there's a Colby Covington fight, I just immediately feel uncomfortable about, like, talking about it because it's like, oh, well, you're just biased or you're just this or you're just that, and it's not. Again, this was never a story I wanted to be a part of, but got brought into it. But watching the Media Day yesterday, man, I don't know. Can we be done with the shtick? I don't know, man. I just felt
I made the mistake of joking, saying that I thought Colby, because I thought I saw something the other day where he was speaking respectful of Buckley, and I was like, watch, we're going to get a nicer, more mature Colby this fight week. That was gone in a matter of moments. Nobody even got a chance to even ask a question. He sat down and started firing, and I was just like, bro, there it is. There's the stick. There's the character. There's the whatever. Like maybe he realized nobody's played heel as well as him or as loud as him, and he just went straight into it. And I was just like, okay, here we go again. It's a Colby fight week.
Okay. Listen, mixed martial arts is about promotion. It is about entertainment. It is about getting people talking. It is about getting people to care. So from that perspective, I don't hate it. Like, I applaud trying to do something. But, like, what was he? He started out talking about LeBron James and Diddy or something?
That's it.
Like, what does that have to do with anything?
That's it. I mean, if you want to get in there and talk about the sport and you want to, bring up some whatever and just get people fired up for your fight, why talk about shit that's not even related to the fight?
That's what
it felt like it was just so ridiculous, and it was like he dropped the lead right from the get-go, because it was just like then people just immediately start tuning out. You attacked one of the most popular black athletes right from the get-go, and then it was nonstop. And then he was just wanted to praise Trump. He wanted to praise Barron Trump for introducing him and Elon Musk, and it's just like, I was glad that he gave respect to Buckley, at least for the most part. I mean, I think there was a couple times where he maybe said something.
He didn't take shots at him. He didn't take shots at him, right? He's like, we trained together a couple times and whatever, and that's it.
He was just taking shots at people even in the sport, and I'm just like, it got tired really, really quickly. But I mean, if you wanted to make people tune in, again, you've heard fighters over and over and say again, you're either going to tune in to watch me kick somebody's ass or you're going to watch me get my ass kicked. He certainly was giving the motivation for large groups of population to watch him fight again, get his ass kicked, but
look,
I don't know. It's
look. I think he's smart in a way in that he knows that, like, if I say this stuff, it's going to get clipped out on social media, right? Like, you're saying that literally just because you know that the media outlets or whoever else is going to clip it out on social media, right? So that means people are going to be talking about you, people are going to be talking about your fight, whatever. I just don't get it, man. Like, I don't. Again, I don't want to go into it too far because then it seems, it's personal. It's not personal. I just don't get it, man. It's weird to me. Like, if you wanted to go in there and go through all 700 names on the roster and talk shit about all 700 of them, even though you can only fight 100 of them that are in your division, I would find that more relevant. Like, at least you're talking about stuff that's in the sport and people that you can fight and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I just didn't get. Let me go in on LeBron James and Diddy. Like, it's just weird to me.
Yeah, and then, but also the without saying it, but insinuating that Bilal is a terrorist and had a pager around his ankle and that blew up.
That was ridiculous. That was bad.
I mean, it's
just
fucking, it's just shit.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's just callous. It's just like whatever. And I mean, you say those sort of things, and some point it catches back up to you. Like a Masvidal running up to your ass on the street, breaking your jaw. You say stupid shit, it's going to catch up with you. Is LeBron ever going to, come in front of him? No. LeBron's got real shit and LeBron's got money. He doesn't give a fuck about what Colby says. But still, this is your chance to get out there. And then you talk shit about Colby and then you insinuate that another guy is a terrorist because what? He's Muslim? Like, bro.
That was
like,
shitty. That was shitty. See,
it was shitty.
That one was pure shitty. Like, the LeBron stuff is just, to me, dumb. That one was it's just unnecessary, man.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary.
I don't know. I mean, it's hard. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to, for so long, it's like, okay, guys, trust us. We've seen this guy when he's not in the stick. He's a nice person. People actually like him. But at some point, you say some shit during the stick. At some point, there is no going back. You just, whether it's a stick or whatever, this is not a comedy skit. This is not a show. There's certain things you say that, bro, you're just a dick for saying it. Like, whether you like Bilal or not, but to insinuate that he hurt his foot because he was wearing a pager and it got blown up, like, it's just shitty. And there was no. What does that do for your fight? What does that even mean? Like, why? Same thing with, like, why you're just scratching your head about Bilal. About LeBron. Bro, if you want to say some shit or do whatever, like, it's the same old thing, but, it just doesn't make any sense, and it just draws away from the fight week. Like, if this is your last fight week, which maybe it is, maybe this is the last fucking time we see Colby fight, and so maybe he wanted to get his last shots in there. I mean, but who knows? If Buckley goes out there and starches him, he's done. He's done. I think the story's over. I think people don't care to see him again, and because at this point, people are like, well, people are saying, like, he ducked Buckley. He tried to get Gary,
yep.
And he tried to say all this other shit, and it's just like, so then you take this fight, which kudos to him because this is a dangerous fight for him to take. I mean, I think a lot of us gave him a lot of respect. Like, this is a dangerous fight.
Yep,
this is the fight you're going to come back into. Like, fucking kudos to you, bro. So I wanted him to come to this fight week, be the guy that's been respectful. Drop the stick and just fucking welcome us back and let us be like, fuck yes, this is the Colby that we wanted to see. And then you shit on it right from the get-go and you just lost us.
Yeah.
And I'm like, come on, man. I want to see a great fight. I want to see how good he looks from being away for so long. But there was a part, too, where I'm just like, God, you say some shit, dude. It's like, I wanted to see you take a couple punches just because you're kind of a dick, but... I mean,
no, you're
this
right.
Goes from years of like defending that guy and saying, like, trust me, it's a stick. It's a stick. When he's not saying this, like, he's actually pretty funny and he's pretty cool. And he probably is funny hanging out with him. But at a certain point, you say some shit and it's like, bro, at the end, I don't wish like ill will on the guy. I don't want him to get hurt, but you deserve to kind of take a couple fucking slugs to the face for some of the shit you say. But luckily you work in a field where you're going to have that happen.
Joaquin Buckley,
on fight night. And then that's
that.
it. Like, I'm not advocating for somebody to walk up to him afterwards and do like what Masvidal did. But at some point, when you say certain things, it's going to you increase the possibility of it spreading outside of the fight game.
Yep.
And by doing what he did at Media Day, he opened himself up. And nobody wants to see that happen. Nobody wants to see anybody from the sport that we love have somebody run up on them. But when you go out there and you say the shit that you're doing, at some point there are ramifications. I mean, I think we all, I'm a big believer in karma, and like, you put what you put out into the universe, you're potentially welcoming right back at you, and I don't know. I felt like a jackass because I was literally in our Slack channel saying like, dude, I think Colby's going to come out there and be a nicer version this week. He's going to be focused. And I immediately had to write in the Slack. I was like, well, I was the dumbass that thought that I was going to see a nicer version of Colby that was more focused on his fight. And then he came in there and immediately started making it seem like the fight was the least thing on his focus. He wanted to use his platform to specifically make a certain target of audience enjoy what he was saying. And it was not most of the fight fans. Well, a lot of the fight fans, because a lot of the fight fans just want to see calamity. They want to see chaos, which is what Kobe is.
There you go. So, I was going to say. Yeah. Well, on the opposite side of that, I thought Cub Swanson was absolutely incredible in his media day. And I actually took a time. I tweeted it last night. Now, granted, as you know, if I'm tweeting something publicly, I've probably had a cocktail or two, and I had. But part of me was like I really just was going to message him. Here's the thing: is that like I don't like tweeting things necessarily like publicly because I'm not that like, hey, look at me. Here's my opinion. Here's what I think. It kind of annoys me. But so part of me like I really just kind of wanted to send Cub a private message and just be like, bro, you're such a great representative of the sport, man. Like you're so well spoken. You're so open and honest about the journey of fighters and the challenges and what it takes and the hardships and all those things. And I kind of just wanted to send him a private message that I thought that I was thoroughly entertained by his media day and feel like he's a great spokesman. But then I was like, you know what? Why shouldn't I say that publicly? Like, why shouldn't I praise somebody publicly? You know what I mean? For who I believe is of great character. Like you said, we're gonna spend a lot of time, talking about people whose character we don't necessarily like. And by character, I mean morals, and who they are, not just a made up character. But that Cub Swanson is that guy. So I went ahead and tweeted publicly. But I just want to acknowledge it here too. Like that dude, if you didn't check out his media day, I just don't know if there's a better representative of the actual sport of mixed martial arts and the athletes themselves than Cub Swanson right now. And that's a hell of a fight with Billy Quarantillo. These first two fights, man, these are two great fights and fights that, man, I feel like I could go either way. So I thought that was fantastic. And I guess maybe that leads us into the pick situation, right? Because let's talk about the picks because I believe we are coming down to the wire, right, for the possibility of Cold Coffee to be renamed Triple C, but we don't know. Do we know? Because I know from the days at Junkie when it came down to the wire. So we'll need an update on where we stand in scoring, and then as it used to be done, and I believe it still is, if you're going into the final event of the year and you're within striking distance, as we discussed before. You guys don't know each other's picks yet. So is that where we stand right now? Give us the update.
That's where we stand.
That's where we stand. You don't know what you got going on here.
Yeah, as of right now, this is the last event that we're picking on this year. Me and Farah are tied. Wow. So we are going into this completely tied. So, but when we respond, normally we respond to the full thread so everybody can see everybody's picks. But since they don't want it to be influenced and don't want me to like match her picks or whatever, which there was a part of me I was like, maybe I would, just so we could have a co-champ. Just so we can have a co-champ. But so I have no idea what her picks are. But it's going. Me and her were the only ones that had to do the secret respond. But yeah, man, I've never been in a situation before where it's been down to the last event like this. I think not where you're like tied. Like there was one I think where there was like there was a possibility they couldn't make it up. But I remember one. I think the first year I won by like 6 picks. It was like there was nothing they could do about it. But this one, yeah. So depending on how certain things goes, we're either going to welcome Farah to the list of champions, or I will be the Triple C. There was definitely some fights that went back and forth on, and the Cub and Billy Q was definitely one of the ones where I've been on the fence, back and forth and back and forth. the odds makers are leaning towards Billy Q. I initially leaned towards Billy Q. Then, like you said, with media day, seeing Cub say all the right things, and that fucking stash, man, looks so. The stash looks like it can win the fight all on its own.
All by itself.
So I switched my pick, which I initially had Billy Q in. I sent the email yesterday, and I was going back and forth with Nolan because Nolan's a big supporter of Billy Q. They go way back in interviews, and it's hard to not sort of homer, but this is a very tough one. Cub is getting up there in age, but Billy is not a spring chicken either. In fact, Cub up in there on his media day sent a happy birthday because he said Billy recently celebrated, I think, his 36th birthday. So he's no spring chicken either, you know. But hearing Cub talk about, man, how he was training with the 20-year-olds and he's burning them out on doing the cardio stuff, and everybody knows what you get with Cub.
Oh yeah. When
it comes out there, like his cardio is incredible. He's got good striking, but he's always there. And I think for a long time I remember Nolan was one of the first ones that really cued me in to Billy Q and about his potential. But man, not to say that he hasn't shown like what we thought there was the potential with Billy, because he's had great fights, but he's also dropped some fights when he's been the favorite.
Right.
So I initially leaned Billy, but the stash swung me. Hearing Cub talk about his cardio, and the last time that Billy Q fought on a Covington card, he lost.
Oh, wow.
So I took all that sort of account, and I was like, okay,
so
we're going Swanson.
You know,
so I went Cub Swanson on that. The main event, we had talked about it last week. It kind of depends on what version of Colby shows up.
Yep.
And we just don't know. I mean, like, I haven't seen any training footage. I haven't seen anything that really sort of shows me where he's been working and what he's been doing, but outside of his bedroom cardio, as he likes to bring up.
Jeez.
So we know what Buckley's been doing. Buckley's been active, so we've seen his stuff, and he's on a hell of a streak right now. Colby's not in the same situation. So where in the past, I think I would initially had went Colby, and I think when I first was thinking about this one, and we talked about it, I was like, bro, I think I'm leaning towards Colby, but Buckley is fighting on a whole nother level. And then just seeing that, and now, when you see him, when Colby shows up to fight week, do we see the focused, fighter that's just, you could tell has been training his ass off for this? I didn't see it. So I went and picked Buckley on this. So watch, it's tough, because if Colby shows up like we've seen Colby show up in the past, he should win. But now granted, Leon Edwards is a different bird. It's hard to kind of just judge and say, well, look how he looked against Leon on the last time they met. He's a very different. And to say that Joaquin and Leon are the same person is not true. But Buckley is active. He's strong. His striking is better than ever right now. And he's been fighting. I mean, like, he's in fight mode. Colby's kind of in just like, I was just hanging out with Donald while he was doing his campaign mode. I just don't think he's been right there. So unless Buckley has a bad day, I foresee that Buckley should get this. But again, you get a wrestler versus a striker. The wrestler, if the wrestling shows up, I hope it's not a boring just wrestle, hold me down fight. Nope. I want to see some strikes. I want to see some fights. I don't think Colby wants to stand striking against Joaquin. I think that would be a silly mistake, but maybe his pride, maybe he wants to show up and do that. I think that would be silly, but it just depends on how that fight sort of goes. But I did lean Buckley in the main event.
I do too as well. I lean Buckley as well. But you're right. If Covington does show up and he is, he does have 25 minutes of cardio and he does have, the grappling's on point. He's able to walk through some strikes. And he's able to hold him against the cage and get some takedowns. And when Buckley gets back to his feet, take him down immediately again. I mean, he certainly can do that. And the co-main's great. Billy Q, man, it's, we do with CFFC, we do a lot of shows, about 3 or 4 a year down in Tampa, where he has his gyms down there and the team.
Yeah, it's his
building.
hometown.
Oh, man, he's
that's either going to help him or hurt him.
Yeah, he's building some great things, man. He's got a couple gyms there that he owns, and he's building a team around him, and he's fantastic. So looking forward to this one. I'm actually I will be home in time to catch this. And I got an early flight out, and I'll be back. Obviously, not going to Tampa, but we'll be back in Vegas and looking forward to it. And listen,
I forgot to mention, that just made me think.
Yep.
You showed up for the UFC 310 out of the blue. I remember looking on the TV screen, and I was like, is that J-Mo out there? Because I don't remember you stopping by the meeting room or nothing. So J-Mo shows up, he goes to the event, and then he's gone. People are like, is he going to come back is he going to interview Dana? Is he going to be whatever? Didn't see nothing. And I messaged J-Mo because at one point, PR comes over to me and says, hey guys, we're going to have Bud Lights and margaritas in a little bit in the back. And I'm like, J-Mo's not here because they've been doing it the last few years.
Yep.
I can remember on the last event at the T-Mobile, they'll have beers or whatever. The margaritas are not great, but it's margaritas for Pete's sake.
Yeah.
You know, but like a lot of people weren't drinking. I remember they tasted weird, but I was like, just get through it. And I was like, if Morgan was here, he'd have two in each hand. And I remember sending you a message. I was like, bro, are you not here? And you're like, no, I'm going home. I was like, dude, they got Bud Lights and margaritas about to come. And you were like,
I might have to turn back. Yeah, dude, I'll be honest with you, man. I was so tired. Because, again, I had no sleep the night before. I slept a little bit. I flew from St. Louis to Phoenix and then Phoenix to Vegas. And so I got a little bit of sleep but I was literally on like 3 hours of sleep in a plane at that. You know what I mean? Plane sleep ain't actually. So I was hurting.
Vintage Morgan on margaritas and Bud Light with no sleep could have been hilarious.
That's probably better that I went home.
Yeah, I think it probably is.
That's funny. I was going to say that this card kind of reminds me a little bit of 310 in the fact that, like, okay, the big names, I mean, and I'm not taking away from Covington and Buckley. I mean, obviously they are big in the division, but it's not like star-studded. But, man, you start looking through this lineup. I mean, Vitor Petrino, Dustin Jacoby, Adrian Yanez versus Daniel Marcos should be a lot of fun. Yep. I mean, and then you look at some of the old, Michael Johnson's on there. Joel Alvarez versus Drakkar Klose could be Sean Woodson. Yep. I mean,
this Navajo Sterling kid. Yep. The Navajo Sterling kid. I think a lot of people are high on this kid. I actually did pick him on that one as well. So I mean, there's some good ones. Woodson, Padilla. I mean, like Miles John, Felipe Lima, like it's good. Miranda Maverick is like right at the beginning, and right before her, Davy Grant. Like who doesn't love Davy Grant?
Oh, I love me some Davy Grant. Card. It is a good card.
It's a good card, man.
I love me some Davy.
It really is.
Davy Grant is one of the nicest human beings walking the planet, dude, and he is. I love that guy.
He's amazing. He can literally get the shit beat out of him, and he shows up in the post fight room with a smile and like swagger, and he's like the happiest guy ever, like he's amazing. Like he's I don't think I've ever seen him in a bad mood ever on a fight week.
Ever. Literally one of the nicest human beings, dude. I love that guy.
Yeah, he's awesome.
By the way,
it's a good card, man. It's a good card. It really is. I think it's one of those ones where people, if they weren't, thinking like, oh, is this worth watching? I mean, like, one, they don't have to pay for it. But two, I mean, like, as for like, one of the ones that's rounding out the year, like it's a good card, like it's a good last card, it really, really is.
It's funny that Drakkar Klose is on here because I was reminded of a story this past week that I knew but I'd forgotten about, that Drakkar Klose beat Justin James in high school in the state championship in wrestling in Michigan. What a small world that is. Yeah, isn't that funny? By the way,
I didn't know that.
Justin James, obviously close to us, man. Dude absolutely crushed it on the mic at CFFC match.
That's awesome.
I just want to give him a shout out. I did it on IG as well, but I mean, obviously, like, I extended the invitation for him, so I knew he'd do good, but he did even better than I thought, expected, hoped. He crushed it. Like, I called MMA with him before, and he's good at MMA. Like, him and I had worked together at Tough Enough, but college wrestling, like, I think he's as passionate about wrestling as he is MMA.
He's so passionate about wrestling, dude. That's awesome. What a good fit, man. So hopefully he gets in that rotation.
I hope so too. That's we've got some year-end meetings along with this. Obviously, we've got CFFC 138 tomorrow night. Check that out. And then we have a year-end grappling on December 28th as well. We're still getting the details of all that out. That'll be announced soon. Tomorrow night, Luke Fernandez versus Greg Ellis in the main event. Luke Fernandez, undefeated light heavyweight champ, going against Greg Ellis, who used to be the middleweight champ. Interesting story about him. We actually had him booked on another fight. His opponent fell out. The matchmakers sent his manager an email with a couple of names, like, hey, what do you think about any of these as maybe a matchup? But they also are like, oh, by the way, to the managers, like, oh, by the way, we're also looking for somebody to fight Luke Fernandez at light heavyweight. and Greg Ellis, his manager, sent him the list, but it was like a screenshot, and he was like, wait a minute, they're looking for somebody for Luke Fernandez too? And they were like, well, yeah, but that's light heavyweight. He's like, get me in that fight. He's like, I want to move up a weight. I've won one title. I want to win another title. I want to beat that guy. I was like, damn, mad respect for that. So anyway, check that out, CFFC 138. But we get back to CFFC Match Day in January, and we do got to line up the schedule. And I do hope Justin can get in there as well. I can tell you everybody on the crew was thrilled with what a job he did. So if you didn't get a chance to watch that, check it out. It's the 2 Iowa matchups. It was Iowa versus Princeton, Iowa versus Army. But, yeah, Justin crushed it, man. I just wanted to put that out there.
That's good. And I know we don't a lot of times give like Invicta love because it kind of falls on the radar, but they also have a fight that's going on Friday as well. And Jennifer Maya is in the main event against Toledo Bernardo for the Invicta FC Bantamweight Championship. So that's pretty good. Alejandra Halara is on that card. Yep. So, yeah, I mean, Invicta FC, man, they're still doing their thing, man. I really, really appreciate it. I mean, I used to go watch some of their events and helped out with them over, a couple times in the past, but yeah, I need to be better about maybe promoting some of their stuff as well because, I mean, like, they've been the feeder organization for the UFC. Now what's cool is now some of the UFC ladies, when they leave, they go back over to the Invicta. Yeah. So, like we said, for fighters to have a venue where they can go out and still make a living is good. So, yeah, I'm glad Invicta's still doing their thing. And that's on the CBS Sports Network.
CBS Sports Network. They just signed with them, I believe. I don't remember if it's the first or second event. I think it's just the first with CBS Sports Network.
Yeah, it's pretty early on. Yeah, so that's very cool. So yeah, that's Friday as well, 9 p.m. Eastern.
A lot of stuff. There's always things to watch. Obviously, the UFC is always going to dominate the landscape, but I'm like you. I love the developmental organizations. I love the outside organizations. It's tough. They're not going to get the media traction. It's not going to get the clicks and the views and the excitement level or whatever. But it's still people, man. It's still athletes chasing their dream and doing what they want to do for a living, and it's, I mean, there's great fights that happen everywhere. Obviously, anybody listening to this, I know, is aware of that. You know what I mean? You don't have to just be in the UFC to be a great fighter. I still believe if you want to call yourself the best in the world, I think you have to be in the UFC, just because you need that depth of competition to like keep facing the top names over and over. You know what I mean? But man, you could be a grein fighter and make money, in a number of different places. So a lot of great stuff.
100%.
All right, well, listen, I've got to go get busy. We've got our ceremonial weigh-ins. Man, I'm flexing now, man. We did official weigh-ins this morning, and I shot, like, I'm bringing all my skills together. I shot, check it out on social media. I shot the official weigh-ins. I edited it down, just a quick little highlight, just a minute, just so you can see everybody waiting. We didn't put any graphics on it this time around. I think next time around, like, I want to throw some graphics on there, maybe throw some L3s on there so you can see what the names are or whatever. But bro, I'm bringing all the skills to the table now. You know what I mean? I'm doing commentary. I'm doing pre-fight interviews. I'm doing written content
graphics
for our website.
In the truck.
Graphics in the truck on production, bro. I'm doing it all. I'm loving every second of it. But yeah, if you see the official weigh-in highlight of CFFC 138 on social media, know that your boy right here, not Eric Anders, your boy John Morgan, shot and edited that one and put it together. You know what skill I realized I don't have, that I'm not very good at? Picking a song. I don't know, man. I'm not sure if I got the right song to go as the back with it. Like, Brad, our president, he's like, hey, man, here's the music service we use. Obviously go in and pick something a little upbeat, whatever. I think that is an underappreciated skill. I think that's one thing you're really good at in your video editing over the years, is picking music tracks. So I'm gonna have to pick your brain and see if there's a process or a feel or an emotion, because I don't know. I was just scanning through, like, listening to music, and I'm like, I don't know. And I picked one.
Well, it's tough, too, if you're in a time crunch, too, because you just want to get it done. Whereas, like, if you had more time and you're trying to find it, you would probably have picked a different song. But,
right.
If it's, as long as it serves a purpose. But what's cool is, because if it's something that you're going to do going forward, something you can always consider is you want to find a song, and that song can become your song for them to use. Like, the UFC goes through their same rotation of different songs over and over and over. You might find a song that you're like, I think this works for, like, going forward, but you can always but then that's one option, or maybe you could find a song that fits a theme of where the event's happening. But yeah, I mean, it's all, it's all, sort of like
little Atlantic City gangster music or whatever, bro.
That's it. I mean, well, that's the thing. Like we've used, when we've been in Brazil, you could maybe use something that has a little sort of like a rhythm pattern that might work with some like that music down there, or if you're overseas,
like
you might want something. That's the great part is it because you can have a lot of fun with it. But as long as it's upbeat and energetic, I think it'll all work. But I'm sure your choice is fine. I think with anything, and especially like shooting and editing, we're always our worst critics, and we're always very, very hard on ourselves. So I'm sure your song choice was fine.
That's funny. I believe your rice is done because I did hear your rice cooker beeping in the background.
Yes, it did. It is time. Yes.
Number two, so I'll let you get out of here. But number two, it was funny talking about music last night. Now, granted, at this point, I had a full belly and several glasses of wine and some limoncello and some other things going. But we were in like this. There were
limoncello.
There were eight. Oh, it was. By the way, I was the only one that ordered limoncello. And it was so funny. The waiter
Of course
came.
You were.
The waiter came to the table. It was like dropping off dessert, and they were like, and someone had limoncello, and I wasn't paying attention. I was looking in a different direction, and literally nobody knew, but everybody pointed at me like it was him. Like that. Like, and I'm like, what, you bastards? Yeah, well, so what? And they were like, we all knew it was you, bro. Like nobody had a question. Like we knew who ordered the limoncello, but it was great limoncello. But we were driving back, so there was 8 of us, and we had a little van, like a little kind of party van or whatever you want to call it, or whatever, that was driving us back to the hotel, and the driver like cranked up like some Sinatra, and I'm like, bro, here I was like, if this was a movie right now, this is when the gangsters definitely come out and attack us, right? Like we got a little buzz going on. The Sinatra is like railing in the background as we're driving down Atlantic Avenue, in Atlantic City. I'm like, yeah, if this is a movie, this is definitely when we get whacked. Like right.
As long as nobody was named Fredo or something in the car, you were probably good. But yeah, you had a movie going on right there.
So funny.
That's cool.
It was good times, man. I love it out here. I've really come to love Atlantic City, man. And obviously the crew that we're with out here is phenomenal, but I love working with this team. All right, I got to get going. I got to get off to ceremonial weigh-ins, and then, like I said, tomorrow CFFC 130. So be sure to tune in and watch that on UFC Fight Pass. I'll be home on Saturday to check out UFC Tampa, and of course, we'll recap everything that unfolds there on the and a half edition. Appreciate everybody supports us over there at patreon.com/the MMA Roadshow. Final UFC event of the year. Obviously, that doesn't mean the final show of the year. We'll keep things going. We will find things to talk about because there's always things happening in the world of mixed martial arts. And we're here for you.
Yeah. We'll talk about, we can always talk about more rice cooking,
we'll get some rice.
Other utensils, be in the kitchen.
Next week we go to
Instapot hour.
Instapot hour. Who knew? Hey, everybody's got to cook at home. We're here to help you out. We'll figure that out. Maybe it's cooking, maybe it's fighting, whatever it is. Thanks for listening.